Meow everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Today was a pretty red day. You have small cap dropped about 4%. You have the 2-year and the 10-year kind of spiked up pretty high today. The 2-year was spiked all above the upper Bollinger Band on the daily chart. Overall, it's just a pretty bad destruction. SPY gap down, QQQ also gap down. It is trying to find some support. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And VIX did a pretty high spike up intraday. It did reverse, in midday, and it did go down substantially compared to where it was before. But you're still going to have a lot of the folks over in CNBC, all these pundits, they're going to talk about rates again. They're going to talk about how scary it is, how CPI is hot, how you're going to have a lot of trouble with the Fed staying higher for longer. They're probably going to end up staying higher than they should. The CPI today really honestly wasn't that bad. It was expected to be 2.9%. It was 3.1%, but the month before was 3.4%. So we're going the right trend. I really think that today was just one of those days that it's been heating up so high with the indexes, even with small cap, it's been heating up so high that I think the Wall Street, they just wanted to take a breather today, just wanted to tank the stock market today. They're looking for any excuses to sell, and the CPI was a perfect excuse to sell, and they did. So I don't know whether or not it's going to keep going down, but I'm going to show you quite a few things here. If it is really that scary, if the narrative is really that bad, how come Bitcoin is still at 49.5K, which is a reflection of how global liquidity generally is? If you look at the monthly, it's just kind of went above the upper Bollinger Band, and it just kind of came back down. Sorry, this is the daily. You look at the daily, it just went above the upper Bollinger Band, and it just kind of went back down a little bit. It does have a little bit of a tweezer look to it, but there seemed to be a pretty high demand right there. But if you look at the overall monthly trend, I care more about the longer term trends here. If you look at the monthly trend, you can still see that the monthly candle is way outside of the upper Bollinger Band. This is still a very, very impulsive bull rally. You can still see that the 20-month simple moving average is still curled up, just like it has been from the previous bull market. And guess what? I suspect that we're at the phase where we could continue to push up above the upper Bollinger Band and just keep expanding the Bollinger Band up. And I still think that things are going to get pretty bullish here. I still think the overall trend is still bullish. And again, if things are so scary, how come Ethereum is beasting? How come Ethereum, the monthly chart, is looking way outside upper Bollinger Band? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? If it is truly that scary as they say, how come one of my favorite coins, one of the altcoins that I follow a lot called Cortesi, how come it's also outside the upper Bollinger Band on the monthly? Basically, Bitcoin telling you the whole story. Their global liquidity most likely is still rising despite the rates. And to get back to the part of rates, before I do that, I also want to look at IWM because it went down 4% today. I bet a lot of people are scared. They're wondering what the heck is going on. You look at the monthly chart, it actually doesn't look that bad. Like so far, the month is still the 13th today. It's still mid-month. And right now, it's doing nothing. It's forming a doji candle, indecision. But the clue that you get right here is that it broke through the 20-month simple moving average. And right now, the 20-month average is pointing up. You're starting to develop a pretty strong bull trend. Now, pullbacks can still happen in the beginning of a bull trend. That doesn't bother me. And right now, if anything, this is more like kind of like an inside candle almost, just consolidating a little bit on the upper part of the Bollinger Band right here, which to me is still looking pretty bullish. If you look at ARK Fund, ARKK Fund, Cathie Wood's fund, nothing has changed. I still see this trend line here being intact, where it bounced off of it, and the 20-month moving average is also still crawling up, and we're still on the upper part of the Bollinger Band, despite the fact that ART went down like 5.6% today. Still think that the overall trend hasn't really changed all that much. Now, even with the ARC G fund, which has been a major dog throughout this whole 2 years, or 3 years, I should say, it really has been just underperforming. Now, even with the ARC G being down 6.98% today, I'm still not that impressed. I still think that the 20-month moving average is still trying to have a trend change. And usually when you have a trend change like that, you're going to have some pain. It could take some time for you to try and get above it. But the fact that it's flat just makes it a lot less likely for it to be a good resistance. And I still think that maybe over the next few months or so, you're going to get some sign that it's going to have a chart trend change, and it could come back test it a little bit, and then it could potentially fly. Now, if you even look at the US dollar, which has gone up today a lot, if you look at the monthly, I'm just going to let the picture tell you exactly what's going on. It bumped up to here right at a flattening 20-month moving average. And when you have something like that, it really does make me think that this is a bearish breakdown and a bearish backtest. Now, if it breaks through it, and if the price action looks pretty impulsive, and if it actually dragging this whole 20-month moving average up, then I would be a little bit worried. But the simple fact is that this looks like a breakdown and a backtest, and it looks like there is a trend change in the grander scheme of things. So I'm not that scared I guess I should say I'm not that bullish on the US dollar at resistance. So I'm not that scared that the US dollar is necessarily going to break through and do anything crazy, because that's not what the chart is telling me. Now, if you look at the 2-year yield, and 2-year yield went up a lot today. If you look at the monthly chart, you can still see that, yeah, it's upsloping a little bit, so that's probably why it's kind of still pushing back up here. If you look at the 10-year yield, yeah, it's still upsloping a little bit. It looks like it's finding support and bouncing up again. But the simple fact is that it's starting to roll over. And if you actually look at the weekly, it looks like it's right around the resistance, and the resistance of the weekly 20-week moving average is actually pointing down. So it looks like it's actually right at the resistance for both, and it looks like it could really be losing some momentum here. I don't know. I mean, everything just seems to line up as today, where things are just either testing support or resistance. I don't know about any of this. If you look at the individual stocks, I want to look at Shopify. A lot of people get worried about Shopify. It did have a weekly bearish engulfing candle here, if you base off of that. And if you look at a grander scheme of things, yeah, it probably got rejected around 90, right around the volume shelf right here. And if you look at a different indicator, instead of looking at the Bollinger Band, if you look at the monthly Ichimoku cloud, yeah, this volume shelf is kind of right at the bottom of this Ichimoku cloud. It didn't really quite hit it, but it got pretty close, and it just had a pretty bearish rejection on here so far, and now it's actually looking like a pretty bearish kind of gravestone kind of looking monthly candle here. But regardless, the month is still early, and I still don't see any major sign for a trend change so far, because if you look at the greater scheme of things, it still looks like it was just way outside of the upper Bollinger Band, and it's just trying to cool down here a little bit. And right now is trying to find support right around this whole area here, where there's a pretty good volume shelf. This is going to be the next level. They're trying to break above, around 90 to 100 is going to be the next, big level for you trying to break above it. But overall, even though you have an ongoing, bearish monthly candle here, the trend is still up. So nothing has really changed in the grand scheme of things, despite how bearish it might seem for you today. If you look at another stock after hours, this one seemed to have dropped pretty big after hours. Upstart, you can see that is trying to have a trend change right around here. You can still see that the 20-month moving average, and again, these are monthly charts, so it's going to show you a pretty grand scheme of things here. The 20-month moving average last month in January was 27.07. So far as 27.14, so technically it's still slipping up a little bit. Now, with that said, with today's earning after hours, it has dropped more than 20%, and right now it's sitting kind of right around this region. And you can also see that right around this region, there's also some history here. It looks like pretty good horizontal support around here. It could go lower, I don't know, right? But it does still seem that the overall trend is trying to make a trend change here on the grander scheme of things. I want to go through a few Fintech stocks because these are particularly what they call rate sensitive, right? And sure enough, your rates going rocketing today. It seems like these are really taking a hit today. But I just want to show you a few things that I think, even though they look pretty bearish on the short term, I really don't feel that scared on the long term. It really depends on your horizon. Now, this is a firm. This is one of my holding. You can still see that the 20-month moving average is still pointing up, and it simply just went way outside the upper Bollinger Band again on the monthly, and it got rejected. It came back down, and it's still finding a pretty good support on a horizontal area. There's a volume shelf right here, so it's kind of at the bottom of this volume shelf. If you look at the weekly, it really tells you a much better picture. It is trying to find support around this region, and it's still trying to do, kind of like a bull flag kind of thing, which in general is just basically consolidation. I mean, it looks like it wants to go up. Now, how far down is it going to go down before it goes up? I don't know. But it's finding support, and it's doing some kind of, bull flag here. And if you look at the weekly chart, you look at the 20 moving average, it's still pointing up. The price has just basically gotten way far away from these key moving averages on the weekly, and it's cooling down like I thought it would. It's probably going to find support up here, and it's probably going to bounce eventually. It could take another month or 2 or 3, I don't know, but the trend is the trend, and if the monthly trend seems to be pointing up, I think eventually it's going to go up. It could take another, 2 or 3 months. I personally don't care. I'm not going to add to it anymore, but this is one of the most bullish stocks in the market if you look over the last year or so. If a firm is beasting like this, I really have a hard time buying into the bearish narratives that CNBC is trying to sell. Now, another stock that has been pretty boring is, PayPal. With PayPal, I think you can also see that it's trying to make a trend change, although it's going to probably take another few months for it to really truly flatten out and potentially grow up a little bit. But it's really trying to make a trend change after it kind of hit the lower Bollinger Band on the monthly and finding support there. You look at a weekly, it probably gives you a much better picture. And instead of looking at the Bollinger Band, I would like to do the bull market support band, which you can see it kind of dips below it a little bit today on the weekly, but this week is still early. I would like to see how it kind of reacts. Matter of fact, I still think that it's trying to find a good horizontal support right around here and still trying to develop a base. This is actually probably the first time where it's forming a base on the weekly. For example, you have a little bit of potential higher low here that's trying to develop, which is, if it ends up being a higher low, it's going to actually become a weekly bullish trend potentially developing, because so far it's just been not really doing very well. It's just been making lower low after lower low. So we'll see how it goes. Of course, one of the biggest stocks that I follow is Sofi. Sofi, if you look at the grander scheme of things, which I'm going to zoom out to the monthly here, you can see that is trying to challenge the top part of the volume shelf here. the moving average for the 20-month is still crawling up pretty consistently, and it simply just kind of went back down to try and test some of the support zone here on the weekly. You can see that the horizontal support zone here seems to be pretty strong support for quite some time, and I still think that this is gonna end up developing a pretty strong bull trend. Initially, I was making some ridiculous prediction that by next week it's going to be 14. Obviously it's not panning out, but I do think that just the simple fact that the greater trend seems to be going up, I do think that if you give it another couple months or a few months, it will pan out based on what I'm predicting. I mean, obviously, I'm just a cat, I don't know. But I do think that there's a good chance of my prediction of 14 happening in 2024. We'll see. Now, the other thing I also want to show you again, if we're also scared about rates, if we're also scared about the economy, the global economy, the US economy, how come one of the strongest stocks in the market, NU, is still beasting? I made a post about right around here, actually, I believe, around June or so. I said, yeah, it's probably going to go up to hit 8, probably going to come back down, bounce at 6.5. It's probably going to break through, and it's going to probably challenge all-time high. Looks like that's exactly what it's trying to do. I don't see any further volume shelves or anything like that. I mean, today was obviously a pretty bullish day. I really think it's going to challenge. I don't have any holdings. I don't have a position in this, and I guess I wish I did, but I'm not really. Sometimes you just have to believe in what you believe in. And if you miss a move like that, I won't chase, but I really do believe that it's probably going to hit all-time high. This is one of the hottest stocks in the market. Like, if this is truly a liquidity crunch, this wouldn't happen, right? I'm going to end up talking about a couple more, and then I'm going to call it a day. The SMX, the Semiconductor ETF, if you look at the monthly, I mean, it's still way outside the upper Bollinger Band. I don't care if CPI reaction is not good today. I don't care if rates went up a bunch today. I mean, the trend tells you what's going on. If you look at just the weekly, it simply just got way outside the upper Bollinger Band and just cooling down. If you take this Bollinger Band away, I drew this kind of ascending wedge. Usually ascending wedges are bearish and usually end up having some kind of breakdown, but this thing actually broke up, kind of did a little bit of retest here, and it just went up. And despite the bearish day today, it's not even touching this trend line. I don't know. One last thing too, everybody's going to try to short Nvidia at some point because it ran up so much. And today's candle, it's a little bit of doji on the weekly. The week is not over yet, obviously, but just look at how impulsive the price action is. If you look at the monthly, like, there's just no sign for this thing slowing down yet. Like, there's no momentum lost or anything like that. It's just keeps on going up. There's no sign that there's any momentum loss, and this thing will probably keep going up even higher. If you give it enough time, it's probably going to go up a lot higher this year. Looking at the Bollinger Band is still very, very impulsive price action. There's not really any volume shelf to act as resistance. This thing is flying in space. This thing is doing price exploration. It's way outside of the upper Bollinger Band. The 20-month is pointing up like crazy. And this is the same kind of behavior that I think I've seen previously when you're really talking about maybe we're somewhere around here, or maybe we're somewhere like around here. There's still a pretty long leg that could go up for another year or two, potentially. And so far, there's no sign for exhaustion. I'm not seeing any like bearish divergences or anything like that on higher time frame. If you're a lower time frame trader, yeah, I mean, you want to short it, you want to do whatever you want. But I'm just not seeing it. Anyway, I'm gonna end today's video with just one message, and the message is this: I value trend a lot more than I value price, because I have a longer time frame, and I would like to do more investment or potentially some longer term swing trades, like for a year or two. But I don't want to try to be cute here. I'm not going to try to get chopped up during these daily crashes or pullbacks, whatever you call it, and get chopped up here. There are a lot of really smart people that I follow that are excellent at these kinds of things. That's not me. I'm just here to show you the greater market trend based on yields, based on indexes, and based on Bitcoin, based on all these fintech stocks, and based on the hottest sector, which is the semiconductor sector. Everything's still looking okay. You're testing the resistance that you need to test, you're testing the support that you need to test. I'm going to stay in the market for now. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just letting you know what I'm seeing. I'm just letting you know what I'm thinking. Obviously, the decision is yours, and you do what fits you the best. It's been 20 minutes. I'm going to shut up now. Bye.